time as any to talk about the virtue-signaling lesbian couple who drove their 6 adopted children off a cliff. Now, I'm sure that some people are going to get offended by the way that I worded that, but I don't really care. This story is more to demonstrate how people are often not what they seem on social media. With all that being said, let's get into it. Jennifer and Sarah Hart were both from South Dakota, and they met at Northern State University, where they were both studying elementary education, and this is where they developed a relationship. Sarah would graduate in 2002, Jennifer dropped out, and the couple moved to Minnesota. Neither woman actually ended up going into education. They both basically just decided that they wanted to adopt a bunch of kids. In 2005, Sarah took on Jennifer's last name of Hart since the couple could not legally marry at this time. Around this same time, the couple decided to foster a 15-year-old girl. And while they were fostering this 15-year-old girl, they decided to adopt 3 younger children. A week before the 3 children they were adopting were set to arrive, Jennifer and Sarah dropped this 15-year-old girl off at a therapist appointment. And while this girl was in her appointment, her therapist told her that Jennifer and Sarah would not be coming back for her. They decided to just ditch this girl and throw her back into the system, apparently in favor of the 3 younger children they were adopting. In 2006, the couple adopted their first 3 children from Colorado County, Texas. They now had 8-year-old Marcus, 4-year-old Hannah, and 3-year-old Abigail. At this time, Sarah was working as a manager at a store called Herberger's in Minnesota. Jennifer had been working some odd jobs, but now decided that she wanted to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. In order to pay for all of these kids, the couple was receiving funding from the state of Texas, which amounted to about half of their income. Keep this in mind while looking at the lifestyle they lived. Sarah was the only one with an income, and she made about $45,000 a year managing a store. After they had adopted all 6 children, they were getting about $52,000 a year for the children combined, which was supposed to and should have gone back into caring for the children. Jennifer and Sarah's families had been accepting of their relationship, but the couple ended up cutting off all contact with their families because relatives were critical of their parenting techniques. Which, geez, I wonder why. By June of 2008, Sarah and Jennifer would end up adopting 3 more children: 6-year-old Devontae, 4-year-old Jeremiah, and 3-year-old Sierra. These 3 children also came from Texas, and they were all from the same biological mother, who had lost custody due to substance abuse. This mother also had an older child named Dante, but the Harts did not adopt him because of his behavioral issues. The Harts seemed to want younger children who were easier to control and manipulate. So now they have 6 kids in their custody, and again, the state of Texas was giving even more funding to help care for all of these kids. Now, Jennifer was very active on social media, and she often shared her feelings on things like race and politics. And she would have her children pose for pictures that she would post online to make them look like this big happy family, but after the photos were taken, the children would go back to looking lifeless and depressed. Because of course, in reality, there was a lot of abuse going on behind the scenes. And it really just seemed like these women adopted these kids to make themselves look like the perfect warriors for social justice. Jennifer would often refer to her family as the Hart tribe on social media. And the couple would often go on these trips with all 6 of their children to protests and festivals. But these were all just photo opportunities to make Sarah and Jennifer look like the perfect, accepting, loving couple. In 2008, while the family was living in Minnesota, a teacher noticed bruising on 6-year-old Hannah's arms. And Hannah told this teacher that Jennifer had hit her with a belt. After these allegations, Jennifer and Sarah pulled all 6 children out of school for the next year. In 2009, Jennifer and Sarah went to Connecticut to get married, as not all states had legalized gay marriage yet. In 2010, another report was made when Abigail, who was now 7, complained of pain on her back and stomach. She also stated that she felt threatened by the Harts, and that they had beat her and held her head in cold water when they believed that she had stolen a single penny. Police did get involved at this point. All of the children claimed to have been beaten and deprived of food. Sarah was the one who took all of the responsibility for this. She pled guilty to assault and was sentenced to 1 year of community service. But the children were still never taken from the couple. In 2011, Hannah, who was now 9 years old, told her school nurse she hadn't eaten all day and was feeling sick. Sarah claimed that Hannah was just playing the food card and suggested that the nurse just give her water. After this, all 6 kids were taken from school and homeschooled from then on. All the while that this abuse was going on, Jennifer was constantly uploading pictures of her perfect, happy family to social media. This was again to make it seem like everyone was doing great and the kids were really happy in their new home. And when people would see the pictures of these smiling kids online, they would think that everything must really be okay. In 2011, the family moved to Oregon. Authorities in Oregon had been notified of the abuse in Minnesota and started an investigation. They interviewed everyone in the family and people who knew them. Friends of the family stated that the children had to raise their hands before speaking. They weren't allowed to tell each other happy birthday, and they weren't allowed to laugh at the dinner table. Another friend reported Jennifer had once ordered pizza for the kids, but they were only allowed 1 small slice each. And once Jennifer noticed that the pizza was all gone, she punished the kids by depriving them of breakfast the next day and forcing them to lay in their beds for 5 hours. Other friends said the children were all terrified of Jennifer and they acted like trained robots. It was also reported by a doctor that the children might be malnourished as they were all in the low range of height and weight for their age. But when investigators interviewed the children themselves, they didn't mention any new incidents of abuse or anything that had happened in Minnesota. When Jennifer was interviewed, she stated that any family problems they had were from others not being tolerant of 2 lesbian mothers with 6 African American children. Yep, that's what that was, Jennifer. Bravo. People were just not tolerant. It certainly had nothing to do with the fact that you are repeatedly depriving your 6 children of food and abusing them. So apparently this investigation by the Oregon authorities wasn't able to say if the Harts were actually guilty of anything or if the children were in any danger. In 2014, these photos of Devontae at a Black Lives Matter protest in Portland went viral. And I can now say with almost certainty that Jennifer and Sarah probably forced him to do this. Now you're probably noticing from all of these photos that the family traveled a lot and they also lived beyond their means. Because again, Jennifer wasn't working, she was a stay-at-home mom, and Sarah was only making around $45K a year as a store manager. Even with half of their income coming from the children, the couple was in a lot of debt. But the family would move yet again to Woodland, Washington in 2017, and they bought a $375,000 home. That year in August, Hannah, who was now 15, jumped from her second-story bedroom window in the middle of the night and ran next door to the neighbor's house. The neighbors were the DeKalb family, and Hannah was begging them for help. Hannah begged them not to make her go back home and told them that the Harts were racist who abused her and her siblings. But Jennifer and Sarah soon found Hannah and took her back home. The next day, Jennifer told the DeKalbs that Hannah was just lying, and she and the other children sometimes acted out because they were, quote, drug babies. So that's how Jennifer was trying to manipulate all of this. Now, I have to say this because I call things like they are, get offended, I don't care, I'm not going to be overly PC to cater to anyone. But this is an observation that I've made about people like this, particularly these very liberal white women who seem to live their lives in a virtue-signaling white savior mentality. It's like they want to seem so anti-racist that they will go through all of these things, but in reality, they are the most racist people out there. And it's like they project it onto everyone else to try and cover up their own racism. And that definitely seemed to be the case with Jennifer and Sarah Hart. No one likes racism, we all know it's bad, but some people take not being racist to such an extreme that I find it a bit suspicious. Like, why is this your whole personality? Anyways, after this, the neighbors of the Harts, the DeKalb family, started getting visits from Devontae, who was now 14. He was constantly begging the DeKalbs for food and would beg them not to tell Jennifer about this. He also told them that he and his siblings were often deprived of food as punishment and abused. So the DeKalbs reported the Harts to social services. Caseworkers tried reaching out to the Harts on 2 separate occasions, but were unable to get a hold of the couple. On March 26, 2018, everything came to a head when Jennifer and Sarah decided not only to take their own lives, but the lives of their 6 adopted children. And I imagine that doing this was part of their own vanity to cover up the abuse even after their deaths. Jennifer had taken the equivalent of 5 shots of alcohol, while Sarah took a bunch of Benadryl and had also given Benadryl to 2 of the children. The couple got in their GMC Yukon with all 6 children and started driving onto the California State Route 1, where they drove off of a 100-foot cliff in Mendocino County, California. 5 of the children were found deceased in or around the vehicle on the beach below the cliff. The SUV had been in the water for some time before it was found, and it took weeks to find all the children's bodies. Devontae's body, however, was never found, although it was determined he had been inside the SUV at the time of the crash and was presumed dead, but it is still unknown exactly what happened to him. More evidence that this was all intentional was that Sarah had been Googling how lethal Benadryl would be for a woman of her size, and how painful was death by drowning in a vehicle. It was also determined the SUV had intentionally been driven off the cliff because it had gone from a standing stop accelerating to 20 miles per hour in 3 seconds at full throttle. So Jennifer was driving and had stopped prior to the cliff and then pressed the gas all the way down and drove over the edge. It was intentional, there's really no denying that at this point, but no criminal prosecution was possible because Jennifer and Sarah had taken their own lives in this case. Back at the family's home, police would find that there was a ton of food in the freezers, particularly things like ham, beef, pizza, tortillas, that kind of stuff. Although Jennifer would frequently claim online that the family lived a vegetarian lifestyle. The family home was a 3-bedroom. 1 bedroom was the master for Sarah and Jennifer. Another bedroom had a single twin bed, and the 3rd bedroom had 2 foam love seats and a mat, which is likely where all 6 children were forced to sleep. There were no family photos in the home. There was no memorabilia or anything that would have indicated that teenagers even lived there. And this is one reason why I just don't trust any of these influencer families.